Thanks for joining us again here in sunny Ottawa. We're here talking about the SXM system and how it might be able to help you out. Let's talk for a moment about regulators and how they use the SXM system. We have here in Ottawa a deployed SXM network that is the local regulator here is using to identify what spectrum is being used by who and for what on a continuous basis. The SXM system is telling them what bands have been deployed, what bands are being used, where the base stations are, so that they can perform their own interference activities. They're identifying whether or not the customers that are supposed to be, our society, is being serviced appropriately by these deployments. They can see it's not just that Band 7 has been deployed, but that Band 7 is being used and how much it's being used. So we're also identifying whether or not the spectrum is being shared amongst operators. Very important again for the regulator to understand, so that they can understand again how well the public is being serviced. So understanding the wireless infrastructure, how it's being deployed, where it's being deployed, how it's being used on a moment-by-moment basis is incredibly important for the regulators, so that the regulators can ensure that we, the public, are being served well by the various operators. As a regulator, you care about whether or not spectrum is being deployed, whether it's being used. The SXM system will tell you that. And I know that spectrum squatting is a big concern in Canada and around the world when you, the regulator, assign spectrum to an operator. You want to know that the public is being serviced by that deployment. And spectrum squatting, as you know, is not necessarily a binary thing, not completely unused or completely used. There are many gradations within that. So the SXM system, because it's a continuously monitored environment, continuously monitoring the environment, it will tell you whether or not the spectrum is being, Band 7, for example, is being used, whether it's being deployed, not just whether or not there's a base station in the area, but whether or not that base station is using it, what times of days Band 7 is being used, whether or not it's at capacity or only at 1% capacity. These are important things to understand when figuring out whether or not spectrum squatting is going. So as a regulator, you might also want to understand not just that the licensee is using Band 7, but who else they are sharing it with. Are they sharing it with another operator, or are they using it exclusively? Important considerations, again, in understanding whether or not the public is being used. The SXM system will tell you that. They will tell you whether or not Band 7 is being shared here in downtown Ottawa versus suburban Ottawa or New York or wherever you happen to be. So it'll identify that spectrum sharing, where it is, and when it is. If there's time slicing going on with that sharing, it will also identify that.